Hi, everybody. I'm Neil from Genio Roasters, and today I'm joined by Shaun Aupiais from The Coffee Guy. Welcome to the show, Shaun.
Good morning, Neil. Good to be here with you guys. Very excited about this opportunity and to share my experiences. But thank you for the invite and appreciate your time.
Yeah, well, you have quite a wealth of experience at this stage. So, Shaun is the owner of The Coffee Guy. He has one of our Genio 6 kilo coffee roasters, and he's probably one of our highest producing clients. So, he really pushes the machine to his limit. But that's not the end of it. Shaun also placed as our runner up for a shot in the dark in 2022, if I'm not mistaken. And he also recently went to the Producer Roasters Forum, PRF, in Colombia to do some roaster training there. So, Shaun, I'd love to hear some of your experiences behind all of these events that you've been going to, and just get a just catch up a little bit and hear how you're doing.
Yeah, Neil, it's been absolutely amazing. Ryan and I chatted just before the shot in the dark entry. We had to finalize our entry. So we were one of the last few entrants that went into the competition. And we just decided, like, let's just do it. And to be honest, the first round, the funny thing is that we just decided to live by our ethos, and that is we roast coffee as in our consultancy brand. So I took the coffee, I roasted it for what it was, I treated it what it was. It was an amazing Tanzania Congoni. We cupped it, we loved it. I roasted that exact same profile again, we sent it in, and the next minute we found out top 10. So it was quite so first round for us was a bit of a shell shock because we did it for the exposure, we did it to because we just appreciate the industry as a whole. Quite a culture shock. And then that's where obviously the second round we took it to the next level. We decided now to put a lot of time and attention to it. I put a lot of research into the copies that came, and really applied myself and got a lot more people involved. And working with the roaster to the best of its ability, utilizing it for every good thing that it does, I managed to achieve that result. So yeah, thanks to Genio, thanks to the farmers, thanks to everybody, because it's
In the first few years where we ran a shot in the dark, I think it was quite possible to place quite high by just chucking some beans into the drum and hoping it comes out reasonably brown. But nowadays, what I hear from all of our competitors is that they are crunching it. They are really researching the coffee, going over their theory, and they're really applying the top level of coffee roasting craftsmanship that they can possibly muster. And it's those people who place in the top 10. It's not just a lucky shot anymore.
yeah, look, being up there with some of those top names, seeing the guys that competed in the first round, you know, for me, this industry, my methodology, my ethos behind everything that I do, I'm very transparent. I love to share. I love to educate. I mean, and a lot of people know me for that. Is my educational side is what drives me and gives me the passion. And when I chatted to David Wallstra after the second round, and he was the one that organized those two coffees through raw material. I just said to him, when I did the research on the Rwanda Regalia and I did the research on the Timor Leste, the underlying source of what I was feeling, the passion I was feeling, was I wanted to do justice to the product. I wanted the farmer to be honored in the process. I wanted to honor all the people that it goes through a lot of hands, it passes through a lot of people. And when we have respect for the product, it translates into the industry very, very positively. So to place where I placed, having that ethos, having that mindset was very exciting because it means I did justice. And David called me and he just said, Brew, the coffee was amazing. It was awesome. Well done. We're so proud of you. And that for me was the farmer. It was the fact that I was able to best get what they deserve that coffee should get. So that was exciting.
But this pulls through to the rest of your business as well. We all know you in South Africa as a coffee consultant, and you also have the Red Band Coffee Academy,
Yeah.
which is also, I believe, sponsored by PDG, by Perfect Daily Grind, and you have a lot of collaborators and collaborations under that brand. And in South Africa, people know you as the coffee guy. I mean, you're everywhere for everyone.
that's part of my experience overseas, which I get to share this morning, is the fact that I went there as who I am and just was myself. And the embrace that I received there was massive because the transparency there is huge. The people there are so willing to help. They want to help grow the industry. They want to help see everybody around them do well. So I gelled in there completely. I mean, I was like, book me a one-way ticket the next time. I'm going to just stay and hopefully the family come because I absolutely loved El Salvador, the ethos, the transparency, the love, the passion, being there at source, talking to a farmer whose farm is 45 minutes away. Phenomenal. So yeah, I mean, you gotta love what you do. And I think my whole life just is echoes coffee. My wife says she's the mistress. I'm married to coffee, and I'm happy with that.
But that was also quite the purpose of PRF, is to be that
Mm,
direct link between the roasters and the producers themselves. So it's actually a wonderful platform that they created. And in fact, a few of
mm,
our customers actually went across. We also had Bogdan from Crown Muscat International, who I as well. So what a wonderful networking
mm.
opportunity. Tell me about some of the other people that you met while you were at PRF.
Well, Neil, you know, I was sitting reflecting on it when I got back and went through photos. So just to give you a little bit of an idea, when I left for over there and I got back, I had 3,000 more photos on my phone. I went batshit Tommy tourist crazy. The people I met, the farmers, and that's the beauty about it, is it's bringing the farmer and the roaster together so that we can have a conversation about what's going on around the world. And so for them to be let into the insights of what's happening in South Africa and how our market is compared to the overseas market, whether it be the US market, the European market, the Central or South American market, even the Asian market, we were exposed to so many different cultures. So meeting Alessandro Mendez, previous world champion, he competed in the El Salvador Champs where he won I think it was Brewers Cup, if I'm not mistaken. They did a Brewers and they did the Brewers. Amazing, amazing people. Budan, absolutely phenomenal. We were revving each other about who has the better roaster. We all know I do. Um, and but meeting a couple of the other guys. But what was funny is that we just here in South Africa in this little bubble, and we go over there and meeting the people that I met, like Truth Bob, Panama Geishas. Panama Pacamaras, some of the most beautiful El Salvador coffees I've ever tasted in my life. I mean, I've never roasted an El Salvador coffee, and I got to roast one in the competition. So that was a bit daunting, but once I got the gist of the Alio roaster and got the gist of the first trial, you know what? I just applied what I know is what I think is right, and it worked out. Yeah.
That's
Um,
yeah, that's a wonderful opportunity. So tell me about why did you actually go? You went to present a specific topic.
Yeah, so we were invited to share. Our topic was called hashtag A Coffee Bean Changed My Life, and we shared stories of Africa. So we happened to be on the first day, the first slot. We got to share everything we've achieved as Red Band since 2014. We were very, very, very honored to be able to share the amazing stories that have come out of Africa, not only South Africa, but also our academy in Uganda. And then the fact that we've had baristas travel all over the world since then. So we've had lots of baristas go into, especially Abu Dhabi, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, etc., etc. We've had one or two baristas go on a cruise ship or two. We've really had great stories to share about our little country. And from that, the invite came about 3 weeks before. Do I want to enter this global roasting champs? But it came with a condition. I had to write like a motivational letter to say, am I qualified enough to enter the comp? It was by invite. It turns out there was 16 in total that were invited, so 12 countries were represented. I received the invitation back saying your recommend or your proposal letter has been approved. I'm like, stop, you invite
Wow.
me. I've got to then motivate why you invited me, and now I'm approved. So that was obviously, it was good. And then same with the cold brewers champs. So I did two competitions. I actually did the roasting champs and the cold brew champs. And that was with Toddy. And they were both absolutely amazing. Was I underprepared? Yes. Was I in over my head completely?
But
I was completely and utterly underprepared, but the people there, the culture, it was absolutely amazing. The guys were coming up to me saying, "Yeah, you can use my glasses. Yeah, you can use my apron. Yeah, you can use this. Yeah, you can use this." I ended up with a full trolley of stuff, setting up on a stage like the Barista Champs, feeling like an absolute amateur because like I feel like I've fallen short. But the thing is, because I entered that competition so late, I only received the itinerary and I only received the information on my flight to Colombia.
well, at
So
least it's a long
when I
flight, so you had plenty of time to prepare.
well, the funny thing is that I'm just because of the research that I did on the Rwanda and because of my love for Ugandan coffee, I was able to showcase that very naturally and not have to pre-rehearse or anything. So when I just shared from my heart, I shared from my experiences, I shared with the judges like what I've actually done with these copies, and yeah, they loved it. I mean, it was amazing.
Everybody really came together and had a blast, really.
Absolutely fantastic. That's one thing for me. There is the willingness to help, the willingness to be transparent, the willingness to educate. And the information that I got from my practice session, I shared back with him and said to him, listen, I felt that it required a slightly a higher charge temperature. I felt that it needed a little bit more energy in the beginning. He applied that, and his cupping sample came out beautifully well on the first round cupping. That in the finals, I went a little bit crazy. I went a bit overboard. I ramped up my charge temperature much, much, much higher. Everybody was very conservative. The problem is when you're conservative with a very fresh, very hard coffee, you know what's going to happen. You're going to bake it.
Yeah.
And I think that played in my favor. Myself and Karthik, the Indian guy, had a very similar methodology, and we both did very well. Our samples came out very, very good, and we were relatively close. Like the finals was very close between the two of us. So I was very excited that I mean it was a catch-22 there. It could have been him, it could have been me. We both used a very similar methodology, and it worked out. It worked out well in the end. So yeah, and yes, I applied a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience. But the one thing for me is the advantage over the last 2 years, and even the study, the build up to me doing the project with you guys. I was forced to study your software. I was forced to study it to learn how to roast using your software before I used the actual machinery. And I think the one advantage that I've learned applying that into for example, with the Alio and the Cropster, is I went and looking at graphs, understanding them so much better, understanding where I can see the coffee's lagging. So, strange enough, the project that I did with you guys in doing those tutorials, everything, I reflect back on that and go, that gave me so much depth to be able to carry through into the competition. So, if anything, I've got Junior to thank. I mean, you guys, you threw me into the deep end and said, come up here and do video tutorials.
That you did, I mean, that's been watched by thousands of people. So contributed to the knowledge of a lot of people, especially beginners
Mm,
out in the field. But
mm,
that's also where you
mm,
excel, of course, is with your training skills.
mm,
But tell me about the roasting landscape. We're about to announce some pretty enormous things, which will happen quite soon. But how do you
mm.
see the roasting landscape changing in the next couple of years?
Look, with the exposure I had over there, there's a very, very different there's a very different methodology. There's a very different industry over that side. The funny thing is that when we talk coffee here in South Africa, it's very fast conscious. It's very fast orientated. We try to get quality versus um, uh, fast. There, I mean, the average conversation is a coffee that's an 85 plus. When you say to the guys, oh, I want something that's an 81, 82, they're like, yeah, those are like the leftovers. So it's quite funny that that producer roaster forum is bringing a lot of people together. I think roasting from a landscape perspective in South Africa is ever evolving, because I think education wise, the consumer, I think, is a lot behind the international consumer, like South and Central America. And it's got a lot to do with source. I think it's got a lot to do with the fact that you're on the ground, you're there. The American, in terms of the dollar exchange rate, there's just so much strength. So when the Europeans, chatting to the Europeans or chatting to the Americans or chatting to the Asians that were there, price wasn't even in the discussion. Like,
Yeah.
you're paying $15 for a coffee. South
Um,
Africans, it's a different story.
I see that with our local market as well. And I've taken on a new sort of approach with regards to the South African and our international customers, and put on different
Mm,
hats. So when I'm dealing with the South African
mm,
community and market, especially with our roasters, I wear the South African hat. But when we start dealing with the international
mm,
customers, there are things in South Africa, for example, our price consciousness, that we have to put aside and we have to focus on quality, because when we approach the international markets with our South African sort of mentality, if you will, which is very, very price conscious,
yeah,
um,
yeah,
it doesn't necessarily translate in the same way. You know, for us, 100 Rand coffee is maybe an expensive coffee, but in the international market, that translates to maybe an $8 coffee. That's not even being mentioned when you look at a specialty coffee roastery's
yeah,
price list or offer list. So yeah, it's a
yeah,
very
yeah,
different take. And we as South Africans, when we start dealing with the international market, we really have to um, put on
mm,
that
mm,
international cap. And it helps to get experience. It helps to travel to those international countries and just speak to people and
yeah.
get a lay of the land.
Yeah, it really it broadened my mindset. You know, I've only ever traveled into Africa. My exposure in Africa, I mean, you go there, there's limited, there's to find a big, good roastery there is near impossible. You can maybe find five in the whole of Uganda, and in some of the rural cities, you find absolutely nothing. The guys are sending coffee from Ginger, from Mbali, from a lot of those places, all the way to Kampala to get roasted, to get transported back to those towns. Whereas over there, I mean, it's just crazy. Like, I'm going from cafe to cafe, for example, in Panama City. Every second cafe has got a bloody roaster in the form. Um, there's just a different mindset. There's a different methodology, and I agree with you completely. I think our exposure is fantastic in the sense of we're getting a worldwide exposure, but at the same time, I think from a connecting perspective, the South Americans, Central Americans, North Americans, American culture as a whole connects a lot more. They're interacting a lot more. Because, as you know, recently Portland just happened,
Yeah.
the major coffee show. And a lot of the guys I met in South America or in Central America were messaging me saying, "Are we going to see you there?" I'm like, uh-uh.
We had the
I'm
I
like,
had the same
there's no way.
questions. You know, everybody's asking, are we going to be in Portland? Are we going to be at Host in Milan? Are we going to be at this and that expo? And truthfully, there isn't enough time to visit all of the shows. And that's what's a nice thing
No.
about having partners around the world. But I mean, just
Yeah.
being everywhere at once is impossible. We can't manage it. But to that point,
It's
what you
absolutely
mentioned
impossible.
about the African market, the rest of Africa is huge, but we're also seeing an uptake in sales and inquiries from the rest of Africa. So in the last, call it 8 months, we've seen
Yeah.
almost
Yeah.
doubling of our inquiries from countries like
Wow.
Ethiopia, Zambia, Rwanda. And then also, I mean, on the floor right now, in fact, I'm testing a 15 kilogram roaster for Angola in a couple of minutes, right after this chat of ours. And we have one on
Wow.
the floor for Zambia. We have machines in Malawi, in almost every one of our neighboring countries now. So
Mm.
Tanzania, I mean, everywhere the African continent's coffee consumption and coffee culture is catching up very, very fast, and we mustn't
I
dismiss
know.
them
Yeah.
as being,
Yeah.
rural or
Mm.
just focused on green
Yeah.
coffee. there's a huge demand for quality roasted beans as well. And in fact, I know of a
Yeah.
plant in Uganda with two 70-kilo loorings churning out 5 tons a day. So there really is opportunity. Shaun, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on, and I'm sure we'll catch up again very, very soon.
Definitely very soon. Looking forward to your exciting launch.
Keep your ears out.
Yeah.
Beautiful.